Wild cards. Give me an extra D6. I think I'll throw a Benny out. Yeah, give me a reroll. Oh. And for a little more attention, why don't we do a dramatic half? One, two, three, four. Savage world. One of the best games today. Hey, hey. Savage world. Better than my play. Yeah, my play. Savage world. Different setting every day. Oh, great friends we can make. Why? Well, because it's fast, serious, and fun. I wanna be a cowboy with a pearl handle gun. I wanna be. All right, if the button worked, we should be on screen now. I don't.
Did you fail your electronics roll?
I'm hoping I did not fail my electronics roll, but it is the lower of electronics or fix my repair for getting all of this stuff to work with everything going. Well, hey everybody! Hopefully we're here and everybody's seeing us, and pretty exciting to do a live stream on getting our first impressions of the science fiction companion. But it's been so long. We have a podcast called Mastering the RPG. And we've been a while since we've done it because one of our co-hosts left. And so normally that's when I get a chance to ask Eric how he's doing and what he's up to and all the projects he's working on. Because normally for our game, we get in it and he's like helping the other players get ready, leveling up characters, doing stuff like that, and working on their VTT stuff. And so we don't get a chance to really chat. So I'm going to ask, even though we game every week together, what's going on? What you got going on?
I mean, game-wise, it's been exciting. I mean, do a lot of writing right now. Going to start running a game soon for some other people. They want to do a kind of Savage Pathfinder piratey game.
Nice.
Personally, it's been we got some random foster puppies that's been keeping us up all night, and my air conditioning failed, so that's fun right now. That is really fun. So yeah, but I'm going to push through. We're going to do this. It's going to be great.
We got
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say you got 99 problems, but gaming is not one of them. So
no, it's not. It's true. I mean, I could do more gaming. There could be more gaming. I have a lot of board games that I don't. But yeah, online gaming. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm.
What about you?
Well, I fell down the rabbit hole of 8-bit retro computing, clone computing. So I wrote a Savage World dice roller for an 8-bit retro clone called the Commander X16. So it's like a Commodore 64 kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's all in assembly because that's the proper way of writing software for an 8-bit computer. It's all in assembly. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt like doing it. And then I did a regular dice roller because you can't just have a Savage Worlds dice roller. It's just like, I really should have been reading this book instead of doing that, but I was doing that.
Once you get that bone, you can't let go.
No. Well,
that's what we call you, Bulldog Carl, right?
No one's ever called me that, but
well, I just did now. So.
Okay, there you go. It's the Savage Rocker. Get it right. So, all right. So yeah,
we got an ask for some Titan Effect first impressions.
Titan Effect. I actually played in a campaign Titan Effect, and it was pretty interesting. I liked that it had kind of that superhero kind of vibe a little bit, like low level superheroes and things that you can do. And so that was a lot of fun. The campaign didn't go the way I wanted my character to kind of grow and expand and become. He was kind of a mentalist type person, and so yeah, it was a but Titan Effect's a good book for sure. All right, so
All right, yeah,
now I got to
getting
press the right button again.
everything up. Yeah, so I mean, I've only kind of I haven't really had time to we've been getting if you kickstarted the sci-fi companion, we've been getting a lot of the early like tests and pieces piecemeal, and they just released the all three parts into kind of like one package. The bookmarks are still a little bit of a mess, so it's hard to navigate a little bit, but it's all there. I've only kind of skimmed it. I just haven't had time, so it's kind of fresh eyes, really. And I think you've looked at it a little bit more than I have, right?
I skimmed it a little bit more than you
Yeah.
have. So I mean, but it's truly with skimming. There's like a lot of pages, so I'm like
A lot of pages.
scrolling through
Yeah,
it.
so
So
I think right off the bat, I mean, the first impression, right? The old book, the old book clocks in at 96 pages,
yep, 96
and
pages.
this one, of course, I mean, we're talking about there's a lot of some blank spot pages and you know character sheet art missing, but right now it's at 304, so we're talking about an over 300% increase, right?
Now that's value
So
for
it's
your
crazy.
dollar.
That is value for your dollar. I mean, a dollar. I mean, just similar to the Fantasy Companion, where they really upped their game in this generation. They really upped their game for this. Um, I think there's a lot more kind of moving pieces that go into sci-fi um, as a whole. I think, right?
Well, because there's
It's a
lots
bigger
of
it's a bigger
yeah.
umbrella than fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, because the genre could be, hard sci-fi, could be fantasy,
Yeah,
could be fantastic sci-fi, could
soft
be post-apocalypse, it could be cyberpunk,
transhumanism. Yeah,
transhumanism. Yeah, so there's a lot that
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to cover for sure. So, um, great. So where do you? So what
Cool.
did stand out that as you're skimming it that you wanted to first jump
I don't
into?
know. I mean, like, yeah, I think we decided to do a live stream just because I think it'll be really casual, skip through and shout out stuff that we like. I
And
mean,
maybe people
I'm in the
ask us
impression just
questions. Yeah.
yeah, people. I mean, I don't know if people in the chat or later on, if people watching this later have the book. So I mean, might just kind of skim through it from the beginning. I don't know.
Sure.
Just kind of.
I've got it up on screen.
All right. So very first thing we have is the Ancestries section. And I don't think we're really going to talk about any specific Ancestries unless you want to, but I think I go to the Ancestry abilities for sure.
Oh, you want to go up here and ancestral abilities? Yep. Okay.
And that's a big part. I mean, right off the bat, we definitely have some copies, it looks like, with fantasy, like diminutive and extra limbs. I guess those are always a thing, but we have some really cool ones. Husk, um, gelatinous. That looks cool.
Where's Husk?
Uh,
I'm in the E's. Oh, there it
acid
is.
biology, right?
Gelatinous. Yeah.
So some really cool options for aliens that are unique. Undead, that's been in there before. Tentacles, I really like to see tentacles in there. Proper tentacles now.
Proper tentacles.
Yeah. Adventure generation planet. Yes, there is a very robust adventure generation, planet generation. We will definitely skip to that at some point. I think that's more in the end of the book. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, an interface. I like interface here too. There's a plus for hacking just natively for Ancestry, so that's really cool. Yeah, a ton of stuff. I mean, this is again when I compare it to the old sci-fi one, this is just like at least twice as much as the old one.
Yeah. They definitely
Um,
expanded on it. I didn't get a chance to go
yeah,
and like compare and contrast the two books, but there's definitely a lot more here. Just looking initially, it's just there's a lot. So
yeah. They have all the last parsec in here too, of course.
yep.
That's what they kind of base a lot of their things off of. Um, yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to call out there specifically? I mean,
Well, I'm just kind of scrolling. I mean, there's just a ton of um, pre-generated species that you can
yeah,
take advantage of. Some are kind of stretching it a little bit, but it's um, like the centaur kind of play on a centaur. It's they're really there's a lot there that you can you can do. So what else do we have in this book that's kind of cool? Let me jump back to the table of contents real quick. Yeah, let's talk about any new, when you were skimming it, any interesting hindrances or edges that you ran into that I,
Yeah, I mean those. I think those were the most sparse out of everything in here. That's kind of the most sparse section. I mean, it always is. I mean, I think there's just not a lot to do for that. For sci-fi compared to fantasy, right? To really make it sci-fi. They have the kind of the normal stuff that was in the old book, like stuff to do with FTL sickness or low G, high G,
zero G
um,
sickness. Yeah.
zero G sickness. Yeah, I was a little disappointed. I didn't see the cyberware stuff, but that's actually with all the cyberware edges and hindrances the um uh are with the cyberware section.
Which kind of confused me
Um,
initially a little bit. So
yeah, it was a little confusing. I hope they move it to the actual hindrances and edge section because that is a little weird, right? But I guess if you're not including cyberware in your game, then you don't care about it. Um, so yeah, all the basic stuff is there, but there's some new ones like programmed, which is if you're a robot or some type of synthetic being, um, just adding like some flavor there. As far as edges, I do like they've added it. They've added in some of the fantasy companion that from Savage Pathfinder, like favored terrain, which
favorite
was a
terrain.
ranger edge
Yep.
in Pathfinder. Then it was in Fantasy Companion. You have something like Captain, where you get a ship right away. Geared Up is a classic one.
Classic one geared up.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, heavy, super heavy G Worlder, which eliminates G penalties, gravity penalties. But again, opportunistic
I like
stuff from
I like ammo
yeah.
counter just from being a
Of
shooter.
course you do.
We should that should be included in everything. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Ultimately, there's a lot of stuff in here that it was in Pathfinder first, and then they kind of perfected it. It's felt like in fantasy, and a lot of these edges, what I said in fantasy, that I thought should just be base suede. And so I'm wondering if like stuff like mystic powers, things like opportunistic,
yeah.
where you get a bonus to your Joker roll, or a sneak attack where it's the upgrade from assassin, like all this stuff, trick shot where you just like feint, in Suede,
Right.
that enables you to do a test with shooting. Right, you can switch between smarts and agility. All this stuff I think should be in base Suede, and I think that's where they're going.
Well, I know
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. I found, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in this setting rules section, there is a set of things that talk about setting rules like limited actions, desperate attack, but they've
yeah,
already that made a lot of sense in earlier books before they reprinted Suede. But with the fifth edition of, or the fifth printing of Suede, that's already included in the core book. But now in a newer book after that printing, they're still including some of those sections.
I think it's because so many people have probably the old core book. So if
I,
instead of
I know
relying on
I know
having to
why they're
upgrade your
doing
book,
it,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you get
yeah,
some you
okay,
get some page count and you get some overlap and
yeah, for sure. But yeah, a lot of these edges in here, like again, there's a lot of these are from fantasy. So probably the majority of these are from
well,
fantasy
quick
or
draw. I think
Savage,
quick draw comes more from
Pathfinder.
Deadlands. I believe quick draw is something
Yeah,
from
quick draws
Deadlands.
from
Yeah.
Deadlands, but deceptive, uncanny reflexes, trick shot. Those are all. We have some cool ones in here. Savior of the universe, just you know, legendary. But yeah, you can convert bennies into conviction, which is kind of cool. So not a ton in this section. I don't think they went too ham in this section. It's you get most of the value from the other parts of the book. There's some other questions here. Are there things you could see that you think could be added to Lost Colony? I mean, for sure, a lot of these edges, like I
Yep.
said, just from edges and hindrances, um,
Because
just expand upon the
because
Lost Colony stuff.
I think the
Yeah,
only thing you'd want to avoid in Lost Colony is because Colony's got that dirty high tech. So you might want to be careful
yeah,
on bringing in edges that are a little too maybe heroic's not the right term. I'm not sure.
too pulpy or
I, I don't know, pulp. I'm trying to think of like Savior of the Universe, for example.
yeah.
That feels too happy for a Deadlands Lost
For
Colony
sure.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
there's no savior of the universe. But things like trick shot and uncanny reflexes,
Oh, quick draw for
you know,
sure. A lot of that
duct
stuff.
tape and bubble gum,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Sure. Well,
That stuff
that's
should all
yeah.
be evasive maneuvers. I like a lot of stuff. And yeah, and compared to because we played a Lost Colony game.
Yep.
A lot of the ship stuff in here, there's a lot of expansible ship stuff we'll have to try to go over. Yes, they expanded the options on mechs from the old book. Daniel was pointing out. So yeah, definitely, I would 100% utilize a lot of this stuff for Lost Colony, like for
Yeah,
sure.
it feels like, and Lost Colony doesn't do a great job with ships at all.
No,
So this
no,
whole section on ships, or the whole area, would be perfect for anyone who's trying to do that Firefly kind of vibe where you're bouncing between different areas in the black, as opposed to where most of Lost Colony, the initial plot point campaign is all planet based. There's a couple of
yeah.
times you go into space and things happen and stuff like that, but it's really about what goes on Banshee itself. So interesting. All right. So let me jump right back up to the table of contents. I don't know. Gear. When I was looking at the gear, it's pretty classic. Lots of different
It's
classic sci-fi kind of stuff. I mean,
they expanded a lot. I do like that they've added in, if you can show in the gear, development levels, which is something that I don't think was in the original science.
what
They had
page is
like
that?
high tech.
What page is that?
It's the very beginning of the gear, like right away they start talking about it, which is something that when I was writing a sci-fi setting,
Oh, okay.
I added in a whole development level, which is definitely needed. Um, it's huge. The gear section is huge. If we could do like some quick scanning through, um, like as you said, there's a lot of the kind of classic stuff. They there's the really high technology things like matter replicate, like Star Trek stuff
Yep.
in here. But the weapons are insane. There is so much, so many weapons, so many different types of weapons, like categories of weapons. Um,
But so how does
they
this compare?
Yeah.
You're a big Rifts guy, right? So how does this compare to the kinds of stuff you see in Rifts?
I mean, Rifts is. I feel like this must have been inspired a lot from Rifts because Rifts did have a lot of stuff in it. But this is. I think this is. Well, Rifts had the core book, and then there's like another book on it. I feel like this is bigger than Rifts as far as weapons go. Um, and there's a huge all the mods. If you guys remember the old science fiction book, all of the mods for everything. So mechs, vehicles, starships, weapons. All of the mod sections are bigger. Um,
Yep.
so
Yep. It definitely
yeah.
expanded.
Um,
And
so yeah, just in melee weapons, we
yeah.
have chain weapons, EMP weapons, energy weapons, molecular weapons, power weapons, psychic weapons, repulsor weapons, stun weapons, vibro weapons, and then about uh, you know, and then custom melee weapons. Before they only had like the classic superhero book, the classic old science fiction book. They had 4 melee weapon mods. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 mods. 13 mods. So you can get a time weapon mod
Give me a page
that you
number
can
on
apply
that.
to
Give me a
anything.
page on the mods.
Page 51. So if people want to check it out. Um, what's up, Sequoia? Yeah, Savages. I know, right? uh, so really cool. I'm very happy to see. I mean, really expanded all this stuff.
Yes, but
Psychic weapons, really nice to see.
and
Yeah.
that's one of the things in science fiction and those kind of games is gear is important because of the
Yeah.
flavor. Gear porn comes from cyberpunk and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and there's no magic items, right? I mean, in this book, there's a little artifact section, but it's like these are the really powerful stuff that are like I don't know, I'm spacing out on its science fiction equivalent. I don't know, the Fifth Element chick, whatever. I mean, not that, but like actual artifacts. But it's only a couple things. This is you really get like all the value from all the different gear, and there's the really high tech stuff like energy weapons or time weapons or psi weapons. But even in the molecular weapon section, they have they have 5 different ones. There's the great axe, knife, sword, spear, and a whip. I love my molecular whips. So
and that does have the if you critical failure something happens to you,
yes,
right? I seem to
yeah,
remember
they
reading
still
that.
have that. And then same thing with the range weapons, right? We got blasters, disintegrators, flak guns, flame weapons, flechette guns, grenades, gyrojets, lasers, missile launchers, plasma guns. These are all just handheld weapons, psychic weapons, pulse weapons, rocket launchers, slug throwers, and there's a huge slug thrower section. So they really did not skimp on these. Um, yeah, and the vehicular weapons too. Whole bomb section, which is expanded from the old one, which is really cool.
Got
A lot of different
plasma.
cannons.
Yep.
Yeah. So, um,
So I didn't get a
yeah,
chance to look at.
this Sequoia commented about comparing this to GURPS before Rifts, and for sure, I think this would definitely help expanding Rifts. Just like Lost Colony, I think this book is really helpful to expand all the science fiction kind of games that are already out for sure. Um, and it really makes it, the cool thing about companion books is that it makes it easy to make your own stuff, right? There's all these mods for everything, so you can also customize stuff really easily for these games to fit the games better.
So I didn't get a chance to look much at the armor, but did they do it? Does the armor have different types of armor to go, or is it still primarily just
Let's see.
because if you look at some of the other setting books out there, um, oh my brain, like Battle Lords, I knew my brain was
Yeah, yeah.
they have like customizable armor and weapons, and they do different kinds of damage based on the kind of weapon, and the armor that works best against it is a. I didn't get a chance to read much on that, and it was something interesting. Did you
Let's
skim that at
see.
all, or?
I mean, there's so much in this book, and I said the bookmarks don't work yet, so
Yeah, I keep going to the
um,
table of contents. This is probably me scrolling is probably driving people absolutely batty as I try to get to where I need to go. So
yeah, I can scroll and then tell you a page maybe to go to. Um, let's see. Uh, armor. Here we go. Not a huge section, not anywhere compared, which is a little disappointing. I kind of agree with you that I'd like to see armor a little bit more customizable, especially in a sci-fi game, because that's where you really can. I mean, in Pathfinder and fantasy, we have enchantable things that can customize armor. Um, we have just the armored suits, and then a single energy armor, and then things like spacesuits, and then there's a shield section. So yeah, the armor section is a little sparse here, for sure,
okay,
and not really any customizable. There's no mods, which is another thing that I like to see. So in the weapons, like yeah, armor not so much, but there's a big cyberware section. So
right,
um, one thing I did want to point out here that's a trend now is they have an outpost, which is their
yep,
base, which is not me and Carl's favorite. I mean, we first talked about this with I don't remember
superpowers
what it
companion,
was,
superpower can,
superpowers,
yep, yep,
and then it was in fantasy
yep,
where I think we just prefer the old style of superpower, the old superpower, a superpower companion type of bases. I like that a little bit better. That probably would have fit here in my opinion a little bit better, but it's still a good system. It's quick, which is cool, right? So it's the thing where if you want to go to it, let me find it
page
now.
66, I think.
Okay, is that?
Well,
You want to show that?
I was on
Yeah.
the table of contents, so
Okay, let's show that for people.
yeah, and so that's
Outposts. Yeah.
yeah, so that's step one, step two, step three, step four, and it's the same
You have
in
the advantage. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Go on.
it's the same as the other companion type looks, right? There's
And similar advantages and complications to kind of to the fantasy one. Obviously kind of different flavor, but kind of the same mechanics. Um, so yeah, it's there. I think they even talk about the room upgrades. There's a little bit more flavor there for sure. I like some of the ones, but very similar to the fantasy one. Um, and there's some custom encounters too.
cool.
If you went to it, kind of scroll down maybe a little bit, show the room upgrades.
Complications, form.
So on page 70, the room upgrades.
There we go. Room upgrades. Encounters, acclamation enclosure, advanced firewalls.
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't know, just real quick, you kind of roll on an advantage table, D6, and it gives like a kind of a meta overall something being in you have a hollowed, so you start with extra bennies because it's like a famous station or something. The complication might be something that like there's strange tech that using systems in it makes a -2 because it's so foreign, or
Right.
you're regularly rated because of it's in a certain location. And then you talk about the form, which is mostly like narrative, like how you acquired it and its look. And then you have the upgrade. So this is the more kind of gritty stuff. Like Carl was saying, it gives you little bonuses. Like a Psi Lab, which is cool, gives you +5 power points to arcane background psionics. Yes, too many hobbies. They did that really well throughout the book. Throughout the book, they gave very robust examples.
Who said
So
I had
not
too
just
many
in here.
hobbies? Is somebody said I had too many
No,
hobbies?
that is the name of somebody, which
Oh,
I
okay.
completely. I am I'm in lockstep with you. I have too many hobbies as well. So too many games, too many hobbies. Yes, what I was saying is throughout the book they have really robust examples for everything. So not just in this, also for the starships, also for making a mech, also for like the special starship combat or hacking. They really did a good job of doing it because that is truly the best way to explain rules. I think what I found with Savage Worlds, um,
Well, that's true. The
often
examples are always nicer because it shows you how all the pieces fit together, for sure. Yep.
yeah. And then they talk about starships as outposts. So I think you know the starship section is so robust that's the starship's usually going to be the player's base. So I'm not as down on it. It's more like a bonus here to me is that the outpost section they put in really because the starship section is really going to mostly be your most sci-fi games, right? Are
I
are
think,
are are
yeah.
next generation, not DS9. So
Well, but again, this can be used for lots of different genres. So if
true.
you're a planet side cyberpunk, yeah, it's not necessarily going to be a spaceship moving around. You're still in the city with a fixed base of operation. So it gives you flexibility for whatever kind of genre that you're playing.
Cool.
But
I think we should go right to. Sorry. Go on.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna.
I would say right to setting rules. The free P wanted to check out the setting rules. That's the next section. So page 77. As you were saying at the beginning, we just have the updates to like bounded and tangled, desperate attack, limited actions,
Yep.
giant foes, the stream template, all that stuff. We do have some interesting ones here. They added a betrayal mechanic, which I think was in Horror Companion, Carl.
I,
I'm trying to remember.
I think so. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
the only betrayal thing that's sticking in my brain is from Wise Guys setting right now, so I can't get that
Okay.
one out. So
Okay. Um, it's basically to kind of it's supposed to kind of a space opera Dune kind
yeah,
of feeling,
yeah,
where you can be betrayed. It's cool where you can't soak wounds if you have the drop on you, which is just brutal, especially as a game master doing it to a player. That's just brutal, but makes sense, right? You get somebody stabbed you in the back at the last second.
I think that
So
dwarf that's traveling with you guys in my campaign. I think I should leverage this rule.
what? No, you can't with Mr. Longbeard, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
son of
Son of somebody,
yeah,
son of somebody. Yep.
son of somebody. Um, yeah. Cool. There's the bottom much difficult healing, which is similar to some of the other ones that we've seen. Um, where you can only kind of heal once. You can't do repeat healing.
Right.
I think including with powers. So that's more for gritty sci-fi.
Yep.
Which is cool. Then we have a downtime section, which is very similar to the fantasy book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carousing, centering, earning, but there's some cool new ones with they threw in energy management, which this is so here. If you go down to page 81,
I'm
so
there.
energy management.
Yep. I'm
This is
there. Yep.
yeah. This is the true kind of sci-fi setting rule. I feel like where
Yes.
it really gives a gritty way of whatever vehicle starships like moving energy, Geordie energy to the shields, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
120%.
All all to the deflector shield. Put all energy to the deflector shield. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So really cool, and then it gives you this kind of generic way to do it to all the different kind of systems in the game.
And
And then of course,
and it's brutal too.
sorry.
It's like you boost one, and the other one gets like a handling, like for example, propulsion, diverting power from it to get some bonus in another area. It's -4 to your handling. So it's not a
Yeah.
it's you're you're paying a price for sure to
It's a
be
give
able
and
to do
take.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
makes it much more tactical. I like that one a lot. Um, and then of course we have the extreme environments, which is really important, right, for any type of exploration game, and
Yes.
something that maybe you would have liked in our last sci-fi game. Um, expanded upon options, right?
That would have been cool. Yeah. Because you guys kept going to different planets, and it would have been really nice to be able to have
Yeah,
some mechanical way of differentiating them, which um though it really wasn't a reason for them to be different because you were living in a simulation anyway. So I mean
that's true. That is true. So I mean, we did have this in the old one, but they've expanded upon it. They've definitely clarified a lot of stuff. If you look at the old one, it was very sparse. We have a whole section here on acclimation, which I think is very important to have. So yeah, which is just a really simple system of like you spend a week and then you kind of minus the penalties that you get from gravity or from other things. Then they just have stuff about like atmosphere being breathable or thin or hazardous. Gravity, they have a nice little gravity table that makes it real kind of nice on page 83. Um, pressure, so they went real deep. Um,
oh, real deep. Like
and then I
heavy
think
pressure, like a lot of pressure. They went real deep. Anyway, so
Carl, why don't we go? Why don't we talk about hacking? I think this is really
well, this is
scratches
near
your
and
itch,
dear to
right?
your heart right now because you've been
That's
playing around
true.
with the hacking
We,
system. So
I should say that I have written a custom hacking system for the setting I was doing, and I'm eventually going to release it on Swag. I think we did some play testing. Definitely, it kind of is similar to a dramatic task, but different. So it could feel very different. Anyways, let's talk about this hacking system.
it's dramatic task base, which is what you would expect it to be,
Yeah,
with the penalty based on how challenging it is. But then they do offer, if you want to do something that's more virtual reality,
cyberpunk,
cyberpunk kind of thing.
Shadowrun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's the net running part of it. So um, I
which is cool. The different suits kind of do different things to you, mess you up in different ways,
and what I
which is thematic.
And so
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of hacking systems, right? We have Interstate 0 2.0, 3.0, we have sprawl
Mhm.
runners. This seems a little, and then I even did a video on, keeping it brain dead, and now you're writing a system. So we've done a lot of hacking. And this feels like it's kind of in that middle of not too crunchy, but provides sort of that flavor. But if you really like crunchy hacking, it's probably not going to be for you. You're going to want something that you might find in like an Interface 0 3.0 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I do like that they've included programs now,
yeah.
which is cool. Adds a little bit more crunch, and that's something that I always, even for a more narrative kind of hacking system, I really like having some programs that kind of do different things, right? Add you in certain ways. So it is. It's. I think this is relatively a simple system. I mean, it's just a dramatic task, right? Net running adds a little bit more stuff in, and then you can add on the programs, which I like. So definitely cool. I think it's good for generic. I probably would have liked a little bit more stuff. Um, Yes, there is Ramdan. We'll see that there is kind of a little. There is a weird little alternate chase section that's kind of like a dramatic task. So we'll get to that
Oh, I didn't even see
soon, I
that.
think.
I missed that one completely.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But anyways, uh, still in setting rules, we got logistics. So again, very important for certain games like supply levels, which I really like. This is a very kind of narrative way of having very high, low, out, kind of general, like, not having to like track every single crate of wheat and how many cows you have in your hold, right? So this is really cool.
And
And then there's a detailed logistics section. Yeah,
well, that would have been useful for our game too. That science fiction game where you guys kept
yeah,
there like, hey, how much materials do I need to be able to travel out and visit this planet and still get back and not starve to death? So yeah, yeah, cool.
Daniel says IC 3.0 is too much hacking, breaks the pace of the game. We absolutely agree, 100%. We were big IZ2 players. Definitely were a little disappointed by IZ3. I think there's still a lot of good stuff in there, but it's a lot for sure.
It's it's
So
it, it's
we
definitely
agree with you a
heavyweight.
lot.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
definitely heavyweight. So it's for people who really want that, that the real feeling of Shadowrun, which is different
yeah,
systems
but
doing different things and being very, very deep. I don't personally like hacking that way. I like super simple hacking. personally. So
Yeah.
I don't even
But
necessarily use a
even for
dramatic task.
crunchy,
So
I agree with Daniel that it does the pacing is important in that game, and that's often important for all the hacking ones. Like that they talk about even in this when you're doing a hacking dramatic task, make sure you engage the other players.
oh
Don't
yeah.
just do a straight each round. Try to always engage them because that's the problem with right. That's the biggest problem with Shadowrun. I mean, is okay. Let me spend 30 minutes while the person's in the matrix or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so but cool. But let's move on. We have a lot to cover. So salvage and trade. Really, really happy to see this. In my, I would just straight use this in my. If people are interested, I wrote a Fallout setting a long time ago. I lost some stuff in it, so I kind of not abandoned it, but it's mostly done. But I had a whole salvage and trade section I was writing. But this definitely could fill that up. Check it out if you want. It's free up on there. A lot of people actually started messaging me after Fallout, the TV show, came on. So a bunch of people were using it and asking me questions after the TV show came out. So that was cool. Had a little bit of a resurgence.
So what
I went a little too crunchy with that one, but you can kind of you can like take stuff out of it. That was how I designed it. But anyways, little
so
self
what rank
promotion there.
would you put the protagonist in the Fallout game or the Fallout TV show?
Oh, she was. I mean, she definitely wasn't straight novice, right? She definitely. I think she just is. She would have some. I think her hindrances were
She'd
just
have
real strong.
hindrances. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, mild
Yeah,
mannered or something along those lines.
not mild mannered,
Gullible
but
or
like
something. I don't
just
know.
being ignorant of the. Actually, I had a Vulture. I had a Vulture hindrance that was just like that, where you just get minuses in common knowledge and all this other stuff if you're a Vulture. So Um, yeah, for It was I lost. I had a whole bestiary I was writing, and it got tanked. I had a computer problem, and it was just so kind of fell a little bit to the wayside. But I think it's enough. I think there's enough there where anybody could play. Yes, Sequoia, I absolutely agree with you. That I like when hacking works like powers. For sure, I that is another hacking thing I was writing for a different setting. Uh, the hacking one that I am writing now kind of does that a little bit. You have PowerPoints that you use to activate them. There's no role though, but they act like kind of little mini powers for during the hacking. So I absolutely agree with you. That would be really good for Cyberpunk, like Cyberpunk 2077, to do that kind of quick hacking. I think powers are definitely the way to go. Um, yeah, and they talk about in here how as a hacker you can do tests just allow them to do tests, right? And that's the very Savage Worlds keep it simple, keep it fun, or whatever.
Fast,
Um,
furious, fun. Yep.
Fast, furious, and fun. Like, yeah, just let them do tests with hack. And there's an edge that helps with that too. So for sure. Um,
For sure.
so yeah, salvage and trade. Yeah.
Make
Want to
money.
talk about anything else here? As far as there's more setting rules. I mean,
There's a
uh,
lot.
oh,
There's
I do want to talk about some of the pulpy ones here. I love it. Planetary romance. This is for the kind of Flash Gordon ish esque. So we got like cliffhangers and pulp sci-fi ray guns, planetary romance. So really hilarious stuff. Um, yeah,
That's the Captain Kirk one too, right? So,
yeah, definitely the Captain Kirk one. And then they get
transhumanism.
into a lot of the yeah. Go on.
Well, no, I was just mentioning that that's the next or one of the next ones up. So we got unarmored hero, and then we got transhumanism comes up.
Yeah. And they added and so again, they really it was these aren't just like simple like oh like here's just like flavor how you do transhumanism. Here's like some strict savage here's some rules, right, that really help it. So they really went above and beyond. I think on these new companion books. So I've been really impressed by all this stuff. Um, Genetic engineering, like okay, uh, cool.
Oh,
We did have people in the beginning. Yeah,
where are
what?
my nanobots? No, anyway.
There is some nano stuff.
Yeah.
You know me, I want to get to the arcane backgrounds.
All right. Sure. Sure.
But we don't have to skip there yet. I mean, there is a vehicle rules section. Just real quick, it's mostly kind of the same, but they talk about heavy metal. So different. There's the heavy metal kind of shooting nukes um, out of out of your big armored up cars, right? Um, So they give, and then here we go, tactical vehicular combat. So again, they really lean into having more ways than just chases to do all the kind of all the stuff. Yes, clashes. Yeah, too many hobbies is bringing up clashes. That's what I was talking about. So we can kind of skip to that, but I want to really just quick look at the kind of vehicle tables because this is what we're talking about as far as or not vehicle tables. We'll just go right to clashes. I think that's the next thing up. So page 96. So this is the kind of modified dramatic task. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this.
Not at all. Not at all. Sorry.
So yeah, it's a twist on the dramatic task to kind of have that like really fun. Yeah, Erica, completely agree that the companions have all been extremely top notch.
Oh yeah, amazing.
We were blown away by fantasy. Superpowers was really good.
I mean, Superpowers was the first one that was really like, oh, they're definitely up in their game, right? So that was the first stuff, and then they just kept doing it, and doing it. So,
cool. Yeah. So clashes, a really fun. Just that if you want a vehicular battle, very much like heavy metal. I don't know if you, the video game or the show, that kind of. This would be really good for post-apocalyptic, right?
Oh sure.
Mad Max, heavy metal type of situations. It's just again, it's a modified. It's like they shoved a lot of the chase rules into a dramatic task. So you got stuff like reaction fire, and they talk about fixed weapons and concentrating fire. So you got these kind of cool actions that you can do now, and then complications. So again, we're not getting too much into anything specifically, but I am definitely very excited to do this, and I like that it's not just a completely new thing, Carl.
Yeah.
That it's mostly a dramatic task with stuff that we already know from like vehicle role. So yeah. And then they give another big example page, which I like a lot. 2 pages of it. So yeah.
And then they
excuse me.
Then we got villainous conviction. I like that one. And then it goes into the styles, the different sci-fi styles.
Yeah.
So these are more just kind of giving you what you would do to get that particular flavor. But this gives us a good example, right? There's apocalyptic, there's cyberpunk, there's hard sci-fi, with the different examples. Militaristic sci-fi, I hadn't really thought about that as its own kind of class of things. Of course,
for sure.
Good old
a lot of military sci-fi.
Yep, good pulp. Yeah. But thinking of it as its own thing versus falling into a hard sci-fi or something along those lines. But yeah,
I like that they've been doing this. I mean, I know some people. Somebody mentioned like just taking a page count, but I mean they started doing this in the superpower book. But I do really appreciate it because it gives a really really quick like here are the setting rules you should use. Here are the examples of like media that you should use. Which for when I game master or as a player, I always go to media to kind of get myself in that headspace or fill that in. So I love that they add this in for sure. I don't think it's wasted page count at all.
Yeah, it gives you some inspiration. Gives you some inspiration a little bit, just reading it. So
all right, Cyberware, another one of my favorites. Again, we're not gonna get too specifics here, but if anybody remembers the last one. Greatly increased. I really like where this is at. They added a cool side effect if you roll badly on
page 112. Here we got
insulation. Yeah, go to page 112. I love that they added this in. Really cool. This is for your cyberpunk kind of game for sure, amongst other stuff. So, and then here's where the edges and the hindrances are, which again I think kind of would have liked this in the main section, but I understand what they put there. And then, it's not the most robust. It's not compared to you can't really compare it to like Interface 0, right? And especially 3.0, which again a little disappointed in how he formatted stuff, kind of confusing, but it's greatly increased. So I think this is a really really good. I don't know if you agree with me, Carl, but a really good like price point of like enough cyberware, but not too much, and they organize it really well.
Well, and again, the whole point is to try to get stuff that represents the majority of what you're trying to accomplish and not necessarily try to get every edge condition where it's like one minor little, and I think they hit it.
This or that.
They captured like the essence of the most important things. And I'm sure there's something that you can probably find that you go, well, what if this well, then just kind of use all these others as your
Easy to
guide.
make.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't take much to do because everything's like strain 1 to 2K, 5K. I mean, they're all face changer 15K. So
And just comparing to I mean, the old book had like, the text was bigger and it had like not even 2 pages. So they've just greatly expanded. And I just love stuff like they added in like a place for you to put hard points, like vehicle weapons, so to really be a full board kind of monster. Really happy with this. Really, really happy.
that's very cool.
Um,
Yeah.
cool. Power armor. I know we'll get to the mechs for sure. Power armor is similar to the old one. Because the old one had a pretty good power armor one, but again, they've custom critical hit table, um, which I don't think was in the old one. And again, like I said, if you want to go down to check out they just have the basic frames, but the mods, if you go to page 122,
122.
yeah.
Armor frames and then modifications. Okay.
So really cool. They've added in negative qualities for a lot of the mod tables. Look
Yeah,
at like the
that's cool.
cars and the mechs and the vehicles. I really love that they added in negative mod because that means you can like pump more in and make it more interesting.
Yeah, you can pull some cost out to get something else.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that trade-off. It's nice. I like that.
And just like characters, right? Hindrances make the flavor of characters so much, so really happy they put this in, and some really really cool new stuff in there, like entangled comms, where it's quantum entangled. I mean, you right?
Yeah.
That's high tech. That's some high tech stuff. But I love the mech system in this. So yeah, really cool stuff. I think we're not going to spend too much time, but if people want to just kind of stream by.
I'm
And then
scrolling
they
by.
give some stock power armor sections, and they, a lot of good options.
Offensive systems.
Robots. We got robots.
Okay, hold on. Robots.
I love your robots. Similar, but again, expanded upon. We got way bigger frame section. If you want to go to the mods again, 132. Got about three times as many mods, I think. And again, they're split up, similar to Cyberware, which is funny. This is how I had it for my my Fallout game. I had a bunch of robot mods. Carl actually played.
Yeah.
He played a Mr. Handy in that game, and I had custom Mr. Handy mods and other mods. So
yeah, it was fun. Got myself.
Oh my God, Erica! Yes, I would love a lower deck style show for Star Wars. 135%. That would be awesome. I love lower decks so much.
That would be. It's Star Wars takes itself a little bit too seriously, so that'd be good.
Too seriously, just like Star Trek, right?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, just the just the the jizz player jokes, which is jazz in that universe, could be a lot. Sorry, this is an 18+ stream, I guess, but that's what they call jazz in Star Wars. If you didn't know.
Okay.
Anyways,
learn a new thing every day.
Really,
okay.
Right? I know you can never forget that. Yeah, there could have been a comedic one in this. That would have been fun because there is a lot of science fiction. Anyways, yeah. So again, robots. I mean, it's crazy how much stuff mods are. We got nanomachines. We got shields. All the different powers, pressure. I mean, there's just so much stuff in here. I'm honestly blown away by the robot section here.
And this is like 0.3 of the rev of this document.
Yeah, this is 0.3.
Yeah, so
let's move on to Starships. I think Starships are one we really want
to. All right. 130. 130 what? That's next section, right?
139. Yeah.
All right. These are like, well, just so expanded. Blown away. So.
Yeah, I mean, they've even like these profiles, I think, are really cool how they did it, to make it kind of more generic. You can apply stuff on.
I'm having something goofy going on with the computer over here, so just don't mind me. Just
All
keep going.
Yeah, I mean they've added in some more chase and dogfight rule options. Is pretty much how uh the section in Suede does, a little bit of the dog fighting, but they've added in the speed ratings a lot more, and they've added stuff like vector passes, where we're talking about such crazy speeds and such large distances. So they've definitely added in these rules, which is cool.
And
Um,
and are you
let's
thinking
go
in
to the
3D? Are you thinking in 3D?
uh, a much more expanded FTL section, which is really cool. Um, I like the astrogation, which is for stuff like um, uh, I'm spacing out now. The settings that have that kind of thing where astrogate, like jumping
Hyperspace?
through FTL,
Like hyperspace
hyperspace is
kind of
like
stuff?
a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a whole computation time and astrogation table now. Um, that's really cool. Where you can critically fail and like what happens to your ship. So really expanding on those like kind of narrative sections of traveling through space, which I really appreciate. Sensor scans, like I mean, there's just so much here, man.
There's just a lot.
Uh, let's go to the custom Starship section 147.
Custom starships. Normal, large, huge, gargantuan. Gargantuan
Yeah,
plus.
yes, Romdan. Robot wildcards do suffer contract, and that's always the thing with undead and is really for sure. But you can always kind of change it with hindrances being just more like psychological and more like role playing. That's a way that I've handled it sometimes with robots or like constructs or things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't
Um,
have to all be mechanical, right?
yeah. Cool.
Battered,
I don't know if you got
finicky,
a good chance to
fragile,
look through these.
reduced speed, unsafe, core systems. Has AI.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, I like the kind of generic frames they're going with more. Yeah. Uh, again, the mods. There's so many mods, but I just love this. I love this. A lot of the same mods I think you'll see between all the vehicles, right? But the price and the sizing. So I still appreciate that they kind of did them for all of them. Um, so yeah, I mean the new stuff here is it's just a much easier now to create your own ships compared to the old one. And
Yeah.
here's what we're talking about as far as uh, all the sci-fi games. Um, this is definitely the best so far that I've seen, at least as far as like creating custom starships. So
Trying to think of the settings
and
I've
you could
read. Yeah, I think this is the best. Yeah, this is the most robust for sure.
and again you can use this really for like fantasy games that have airships. I think you could really easily ignore the high sci-fi. The companion, I believe, Philip, will probably get the full PDF by the kind of end of. What do you think? Like, I think it's supposed to be like the end of the year, Carl, or like late August or early September or something like that.
That's what I would guess,
They don't
considering
give
they
it.
have to be able to. They're going to print the beginning of next year, or they're
Yeah,
shipping
we know
it,
the
so that
hardcover is the
they
beginning.
have to have
Yeah,
it basically done to go and get proofs and get it ready
for
for
a couple
print.
months.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, as far as the hardcover coming out, probably first quarter of next year. I think probably yeah. If I remember correctly, I don't remember the exact thing. Um,
But his book's in pretty good shape to use today. I'm sure there'll be changes, but
I,
it's not too
yeah,
bad.
for sure. I think the bookmarks being broken, which is something that you would
I meant
definitely need for a
content.
book this
Yeah, I meant
big.
the content. Yeah, yeah.
But I 100% agree with you. Anybody, if you can get your buy it, I think it's ready to go right now. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff in here, but I think you could already use this for so many different games for sure. Um, yeah. And again, I like how they've organized everything into defensive system, offensive. Um, so some really cool stuff in here. Matter scoop, I love to see that. So it's really cool for different types of games, as far as like games that long distance and like you're self sufficient, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You're well, I mean,
it's so much.
yeah, there's a lot.
And I want to also add in, they added in something for vehicles structural, like mega, like superstructures. So there's stuff for like hangars and docking clamps, but also superstructures. So we're talking about like factories and artificial gravity section. If you're like a more low tech one, you have your big superstructure like spinning thing, whatever, or
the spinning.
biospheres.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so this is like awesome that they added in superstructures, because that is a big part of a lot of sci-fi, for sure. Um, and then again, they added in, there's a ton of stock starships in here if you want to go down, and although even to space colonies, because again, you can use this to create space stations. Like there's enough here to create giant space stations or even space colonies, like like self-contained things. So if you go down to like 156, you can see what there's an example of space stations and space colonies here. Um,
Oh, sorry. Space Colony Class 5, Class 4.
yeah. So as you can see, like you can do so much with this, and there's enough mods and everything to make these. Um, I like how Space Colony has a handling of minus
Minus
because it's
6.
it's floating in space. It's not on the it's not planet, but
I'm
it's still.
surprised it's got any kind of
Um,
handling at all, to be honest.
well, DS9, right? They moved it to next to the wormhole. I don't know if a DS9 guy. Um, uh, when they discovered the wormhole, I just listened to it. There's an awesome comedy podcast called Greatest Generation. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, where they go through all the different Star Treks, and they're a bunch of film comedy guys. So really funny stuff, and you kind of watch it again.
That's cool.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah. Cool. And then we have a separate section for military vessels. So they really did it with the examples, and having a lot of stuff to custom do it, and you can just grab and go as a game master. So I really
Which I like
appreciate it.
that. I like to be able to just grab
Yeah.
and not have to build from scratch different ships.
And there's not just like transport and scout ship and then cruiser and battleship. There's like dropship, starfighter, heavy fighter, corvette, heavy frigate, cruiser. They really gave all the different cool classes, um, which personally I love. So with all these things, it might seem like a lot, but you can just take what you want and not take the rest.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Cool. And then vehicles. I don't know if, again, it's kind of the same stuff, so I think we can kind of skip over this. We've seen a lot of the similar mods. Again, they greatly increased it, and you can do mega vehicles again. That they give like structural stuff like hangars and artificial gravity if you're like on a planet with low gravity. So, um, so to kind of make like but giant sand crawlers or whatever.
Moving cities.
They even have their.
You could do your own movie city.
I will say throughout this book, there are so many nods. There are funny little differences of, there's like sandcrawler. There's a picture of a sandcrawler if you want to go to 170, but it's like just different enough, right? With copyright, there's like a Mars attack alien. There's a what do they call it? When in the Bestiary, there's a simulator, which is like a straight Borg, right? So that it's just there's so many nods to like every sci-fi thing in this book. There's a whole like Starship Trooper aliens in here. So they really went overboard with that too, Carl. Um,
well, it's for inspiration. It inspires you.
Yeah. And again, with the vehicle section, I think you can use this in a lot of games. I mean, like a whole underwater thing. So if you want to do like a, underwater, advanced civilization, right? You could really use that here too. So I think Sci-Fi is their biggest companion yet, I believe. I think it's bigger than yes, it's a legally distinct sandcrawler. It's the sand, the slightly fast sand tattered glass mover.
So the fantasy companion, which is a big one too. That's
yes, Rom down. Moving cities.
Yeah, that's
250. Yeah, so
257, something like that.
This is the biggest companion ever, and we'll see later in the powers. There's not the full power section, which I kind of would have liked actually, but anyways, we'll talk about that when we get there. But so this is all for like mostly in the vehicles and the mechs and all the mods. So you can use this with so many different types of games, not just the hard sci-fi and all that stuff. Even kind of close to Yes, Tipsy Flipper. I am very jazzed too.
Yeah, that's a very
This
excited
is I'm
about it.
definitely the most impressed by it. Yeah.
Very excited about this one.
Um.
This one we look forward to,
Okay,
and
let's
we
go.
had them on live streams, and we kept prodding them too whenever they came on the live stream with us. So it's like, when are you going to do this one? So
Yeah, we prodded them. They had this look on their face, especially when we were off screen of just like they've seen things. You know, it was like a glazed over look. We've done too much. I know, Waterworld. Daniel, I would play a Waterworld game. That would be hilarious. I would love to play
with
a
cyberware,
Waterworld game.
water filtration cyberware for your own urine. There you go.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing. You know, like the crux of the whole economy is turning your piss into water. Um, that's what it's all based. We would have a piss conversion mod table just to like
Exactly.
want this one it makes lemonade. This one just makes water. Anyways, okay. Walkers. We had somebody specifically call it mechs. So let's go to walkers. 179.
179. Okay.
Because I'm with you. Mechs are, besides having a starship in any game. I mean, any game I'm in, I always want a ship or a starship or whatever, a magical wagon. In sci-fi games, I always want mechs too. I love mechs. So, yeah, again, they've greatly increased it here. I don't know if you looked this over, Carl. If you want to shout out anything here.
I think it just reminds me a lot of all the other sections. It's just very robust. There's a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff here. I like that they give samples, because again, it helps you build out, and the talking a little bit about the combat side of it. That you're using the piloting role and that sort of thing, and I didn't really read about the stomp though. So stomp. Okay, hold on.
You got to have stomps.
Gargantuan
Carl,
walkers.
make game,
Stomp. I love stomps. Yeah.
You got to have stomps. I mean, that's just yeah. Even besides the other game, they have these unique rules for walkers, which I really appreciate. Combat rules. They talk about what you use for fighting, right? Lower of operators piloting or fighting skill.
Right.
They talk about running. Yeah, stomp. Exactly. Death from above. So they really made it like that. Yeah, if you want to go look at 181, if that's where you are, yeah, for sure. So this is different than the other ones because it's unique for walker combat, and really fits in with I think Rifts had some of this stuff with having the like overly large kind of really strong kind of people basically superheroes, superpowered things, but they're walkers, right? It's basically the same.
Okay.
But you can definitely play either your kind of mech warrior type walkers or your battle tech ones to your armored core. I think what I've looked over, there's enough variety here to do kind of both ends of that. If you know what I'm talking about, Carl, I'm not sure if you
Say that again.
the like mech warrior kind of more like clunky-ish
Oh,
walkers versus your armored cores of it like kind of very fast paced. Yeah, and you could use those clash rules I think too as well.
oh yeah. I would think you could. Yeah, for sure. Just
And really cool unique stuff like arm shields and all the cool stuff you want to do all your anime dreams of having a mech, having your sword and arm shield.
now this doesn't go. I was looking. This doesn't have like the scaling, because there was a setting that was based on kaiju kind of things, and so they scaled
Yeah.
the combat rules based on the scaling. It's like at a certain level you're doing standard combat, but once you kind of zoom in, it changes because a small thing versus a big thing doesn't make sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Rom actually calls it out that in mech games, only bad. You're like nerfing somebody, right? So definitely, I mean, as a game master, if you're having walkers in, it's a walker game, right? Or you have like walker sections where they're appropriate or something. You have some type of way that you kind of put a cap on that.
Right.
I think did they? Let's see if they actually did talk about that. I mean, that's a good point for sure. They do talk about like it's a Dev 2 rating and above as baseline. So throughout the book, something that I forgot to call out, but they, at the very beginning, they have their development levels, and each thing kind of has a development level to it. So do they talk about kind of adding it into your game as almost a setting rule, right?
I'm looking at all the difference now. There's stock walkers. There was the modifications.
Yeah.
They talk about heat.
Um,
Um,
Heat, which is cool for that BattleTech. I love BattleTech. So yeah, not really
nope,
much here.
nope.
That is a good point. Um,
I think the definite expectation is that it doesn't make sense for like a meat bag to be going up against a gargantuan walker. But then again, we have
yeah.
creatures that are huge, um, gi- uh, gargantuan creatures that we fight all the time. So I guess it's not that crazy to,
We have creatures, but
yeah.
there
So
and there's also like you could be in a vehicle. This if you're droided out, right? There was you could have vehicle weapons on you as a cyborg or whatever. So there's definitely ways to even the play, and then you always have size penalties to hit and stuff. So
yeah.
um, yeah, I think they did. Actually, Tipsy, I do remember them. I do remember them talking about um, at some point. I remember one conversation we were having. Remember them brought we were talking about sci-fi and mechs. They brought up BattleTech.
Well, BattleTech's
Yeah,
much more
Tipsy Liver,
tactical. Yeah.
but how they ran a bunch of using this for BattleTech games. So yeah, for sure. I think BattleTech is probably the sweet point for this Tipsy, 100%.
Well, it's
Um,
definitely its spirit. It's spirit animal for sure. Something. So
yeah, yeah. Chapter 10, World Maker. Here's another one of the. So I definitely want to get to arcane backgrounds and powers though, because that's my biggest jam of all. But let's definitely talk about World Maker because that is really important for sure.
So this is not the level of you find in Worlds Without Numbers, but it's still pretty good.
No,
It's
it's
good.
not Words Without Numbers level. I was going to bring that up. Yeah. But it is expanded upon from the old book again. I mean, actually, I'm kind of looking at it now.
And it uses that strange D20 that's so rarely used.
Yeah, they like to use their D20s for this, for sure. Let's see. I mean, they've expanded on it a little bit, but it's. I feel like this is mostly the same as the old one. Um, let's see. I'm kind of skipping through both now. Yes, there are, Erica. I am. I'm really excited to talk about it. But yes, uh, I think it's the. I forgot who first one to call out. The World Maker. I think it is. It is very simple. Again, we're not going through this with a fine. I think we'll maybe eventually we'll really do a bunch of video deep dives on this book for sure.
Gonna have to, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have
When I
to.
can actually get a chance to read it like in depth
Yeah,
and grok it, so
we'll do deep. We'll do deep dives on this book for sure when it comes out. You get more. And we're the next campaign is gonna. So we're gonna using it. We think so. But just off of a first impression glance, I think it is very similar to the old book. They did not expand that much on it from the old book. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Here we go. Here we go. Powers. We're here. We've arrived, Carl.
Oh, but I see that we're out of time. Thank you, everybody. No,
No, what?
sorry, just joking.
What? Don't do that to me. Now I'll say at the get. One of the things I was disappointed in is that in fantasy they added in all the powers just because they updated a lot of powers.
Right.
There's no mega mods in this, and at this point, and personally, I'm in the opinion that
You got to have mega mods.
every game you got to have mega mods. I mean, unless it's their type of game you're playing isn't really like low magic, but I mean, then don't really use these arcane backgrounds because they're not really low magic, and you're competing with like these arcane backgrounds are also competing with all these high tech devices, right? And
Yeah.
all these crazy weapons. So, because mega mods to me or epic power mods, whatever you want to call them, they just really, we've talked about this before. They really give arcane casters a really good sense of progression, and they didn't include that here. So I was definitely a little disappointed. And the page count would have been insane. Yeah, the Tipsy Flipper. I was going to say you're absolutely right. Just use the Rifts one. So even honestly, even the fantasy one mostly,
Oh, yeah,
there is some added powers. So I'm not sure if the Rifts one, I can't remember off the top of my head if the Rifts added powers are the same as these added powers. I don't think so. You
And
could
the
probably
and
come
the
up with your own ones.
and the only problem
Yeah.
with the Rifts is very early in that kind of development phase, and so the
Exactly.
later,
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
more refined in the Fantasy Companion and Savage Pathfinder and stuff like that. So much more refined.
Yes, but yeah, but I think you could use the Fantasy Companion book mostly because most of the powers are the same, right? There's just some added powers. But yeah, let's look at some of these arcane backgrounds. We'll go. I'll stop maybe on some of the ones, but we got Chaplain. Um, just some cool stuff. They have Mercy. So there's some stuff here from Savage Pathfinder and Fantasy book of like clerics and paladins. This is kind of your that kind of vibe for sure. And then they give a little psionic variant, which is cool. But I want to get into the Chronomancer, which I love here,
Chronomancer, there we
where
go.
it's all about time magic, which I love magic. They have a whole butterfly effect table, so if we can show that, page 197, really cool to add that there, which is kind of like a backlash table or wild magic table a little bit, right? Um, and it's a lot of these arcane backgrounds are basically gifted, so they use focus for most of them. Um, right off the bat, though, Chronomancer doesn't actually have any specific. The only thing that's weird to me here is that Chronomancer doesn't seem like it has anything really unique on its base edge, which is something that they started to do after Savage Pathfinder with like the arcane backgrounds in Savage Fantasy, right? Was they were almost like basically class edges where they really modified. It wasn't just like here's a little tiny bit of flavor, but
Right.
you do get 2 powers and 15 power points. That's where the critical failure effect. But they have really cool edges. So if you want to go down to the edges, they have stuff rearrange time, which is similar to the I forget what it's called from Savage Pathfinder. There's like a Tarot person. I think it's like the Verisian. I can't remember
Oh
what it is.
yeah.
Um, yes, the Doctor for sure, Erica. There's the Time Lord edge.
Yeah,
There it
there you
is.
go. Yep.
Not you don't get to reincarnate as a different person or whatever, but you do get to get an additional action card on
Oh,
top of your action card, which is insane at heroic. You get another turn every single turn, I believe is what it is. Um, oh, you can spend a Benny to get an additional action card. So yeah, really cool, powerful. But I like that you can spend a Benny. I love this, and I love
I agree.
initiative stuff. So
Because that's really what makes one of the things that makes Savage World so unique is that the initiative system you can interact with it in a very meaningful
yes,
way with edges
in a
and
very cool way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yep,
So
cool.
very cool. Again, only 3 edges here, but yeah, let's move on. Gravlock. Okay, I love gravity powers. Absolutely love gravity powers. So I was really
Is
happy.
there any powers you don't love? Let's be honest.
I I would say, but as far as like sci-fi ish or like superpowers, I love like mostly gravity and void things are my favorite. Like gravity and like singularity type stuff, and then time. So these 2 are my favorite here,
Okay.
and we got all of them. I'm a big Mass Effect fan, so yeah, you can do Mass Effect in this. I was definitely looking through his Mass Effect, but Gravlock, really cool. Really small power list, but you can do some cool stuff where you can change your just you get a higher strength die, and then you can the edges are you can change your own gravity level, which means you can kind of add your pace increases. So really cool stuff there. And then you can increase telekinesis to like superhero levels, basically, which I really think is really cool. But to your detriment, you can later on get fatigue. So
Right.
really like Gravlock. Um, yeah, we'll go through this quickly, but I think it's just cool to hard light controller, which I don't know. Can you think off the top of your head what kind of sci-fi? I mean, obviously superheroes, right? Green Lantern type stuff, but
Well,
can you
that's the
think of a
first thing I
sci-fi
thought
thing
of
that uses
was
this?
Green Lantern. I mean, that was the only thing that I really came to mind right off
Hmm.
the
I
bat.
don't know if
But
anybody in the yeah.
anybody got any ideas?
If anybody has any ideas, throw it up. But really cool. It's right off the bat here, Carl. We got science as the arcane skill, so some really cool synergy here.
Yep, that's
Um,
cool. Yep.
and creating item illusion. Like I usually hard light would be a thing I'm into, but this is really cool. Um, they really went above and beyond with this one. Like uh, a lot of like stuff just in the initial one, and then bonuses with your science. And yeah, we'll skip through this. Mystics, your spirit and science.
Spirit and
Um,
science.
Yeah, it's basically holodeck but portable, which Amsterdam of Doom, which in our sci-fi game, I use the illusionist. We basically use Fantasy Companion
Yep.
for a lot of sci-fi stuff, like and I use the illusionist in that game. If you guys know of that basic game, not like straight like a holographic projector, and I trapped it as a
As a
it
game.
was Mystics and Marauders. Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
game
Yeah.
master. It was a sci-fi game master device. So that was really fun. So yeah, that's a really good point. That's a cool yeah, holodoctors. That's a good point. Tipsy Flipster. Yeah, the Star Trek Voyager holodoctor. Anyways, Mystic has some cool stuff in here with having resonance with cosmic alignment. So um, yes, they fully embrace it. But again, Rom, like you can pick and choose for your specific type. Carl is one of those guys who he's not the biggest fan of having too much like crazy stuff in sci-fi, right? You don't really like all the like
I lean towards more the hard sci-fi generally.
yeah.
Yeah. I yeah, I tend to have things that I feel like are projection of what could happen. And
Yeah. So
but
psychic not really being one of those necessarily. Yeah. But anyways,
I put up
yeah.
with psychics. I put up with them. I don't know. Psychics are my
So
favorite. So
mystics aren't really your jam, right?
not my really my jam.
Uh
So
let's keep moving on because Psyker,
speaking of which,
here's the wizard. Yeah, here's the straight wizard, right? This is like I think the biggest available powers.
yeah, I think
And then
so.
you got some cool it's kind of the most generic one, you know. It's pretty much just the psychic one, but you can do the scanning, which I like. Um so again, they're not if I remember from the fantasy book, the fantasy book had more edges. Like it would have been real easy to port those into Savage Pathfinder. So these are a little bit light on the edges for sure. Um, I move on to the next one,
Shepherd.
Shepherd, which is similar to the first one, the chaplain, but more of this is basically a cleric. Uh, with some of the paladin abilities. So our courage was originally a paladin one, so they kind of split up the paladin um, into those things. But then yeah, this is kind of for the group. Shifter, really cool. Um, yeah, second with a K, so it is definitely grimdark. uh, we got to have our grimdark stuff and our edge, right? We can't lose our edge. Yeah, book is what I thought of for sure with Shepherd. Obviously, yeah, that was their thing.
Yeah.
Shifter, which you get. I almost for me shifters when I did a shifter thing for made it. You just completely use the no PowerPoints
Yeah.
one. But here there's some cool stuff. I mean, gelatinous. You can just you become gelatinous and then
Ooze through
morph.
gates
You just
and
add on to stuff onto your ship. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so it's cool that it's there. And then let's move on to the final one,
Star Knight.
Star Knight. here's your Jedi, and they really went heavy on this one is like three times longer than all the other ones.
With a psychic spirit sword. Okay. All right. So
yeah, you start with there's knights, and you start with your laser blade. You have laser parry. You start with a trademark weapon. So if you scroll down to Star Knight and then look at the edges, there's like five
laser
edges for
parry,
Star Knight, or six edges.
laser reflect,
but
star knave.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I think Star Wars is probably still. I don't know with Savage Worlds players, maybe not. But Star Wars is still one of the biggest settings that people like to play in. So
Yeah. So if you didn't
it's
have
cool that
that,
it's here.
yeah, if you didn't have it, it'd
Yeah.
be it would be a clear gap in what it can handle. So for sure.
And then we got Technomancer, which is your basically hacker with drones. So this is for Shadowrun.
Yep.
I would have liked to see one more edge here. It feels like, or some other, but still really cool. Um,
Warper.
The drones are cool, but I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this one. But you do get straight +2 to electronics and hacking rolls, so this is definitely the one to take for your hack. And I just want to, Carl, are you? I don't want to surprise you. There is no Nanomancer, so
Well, so if you
um,
really, so if you want a mage that does uses nanotechnology, you'll just have to go to the swag store, go to Drive Through
yeah,
RPG, and download the my nano arcade background. So there you go.
for sure.
Which I think is
And
pretty
then we got
dated, honestly. But anyway,
yeah, it's a little dated. We could probably update it. You know, we could take a swing at it and update it for the new
it's
ones.
a pay what you want
Um,
anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, all
yeah.
right.
Oh, and also I forgot to say in the very beginning they did bring so, um, you know, whether that's your Jedi thing or not, they even have like Star Warrior or something for Mystic powers, but yeah, Mystic powers are in this. And then the last one they have is Warper, which again, that was that was my second favorite kind of flavor. Um, and this one's really cool. Really adds into this is definitely again, I'm spacing out on the what's it called? You know, your dark but satirical. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of this. Hold on. Warhammer. Good God.
Warhammer, yeah,
This is
okay.
for your Warhammer. This is for your navigators for sure. Because you got cool stuff like hyperspace. They can create micro versions of hyperspace to teleport, and with critical failure, what happens, and you could channel the warp. Which isn't. I read this one. This one I'm a little bit. I feel like this one I might need a little tweaking. It feels like it's not really worth the edge investment because they're like only on you have to do a roll. So you have to take the edge, and then only on a roll. Um, yes, yeah, that's a good point, Dan. I actually saw it too. That for nanomancers, you can use the hard for sure. That's a really good point. Actually, I had the same thought for yeah. But yeah, anyways, getting back to channel the warp. You only kind of get benefit of it if you get a raise on a roll. On a normal success, it's just normal, and then you have a failure and a critical failure effect. So you're kind of like doing an edge, you know, and then on a raise. So if you have a high arcane skill, then yeah, but I don't know. It feels a little. I'd like to see them kind of tweak this background a little bit. Um, anyways,
Okay.
cool. And then let's go to the new powers.
New powers.
Um,
I'll just say for someone who's skimmed this book,
yeah,
you definitely know what's in it. I did not skim it
yeah.
compared to you, that's for sure. So
I I skimmed it, and then yeah, I'm just looking at stuff now. But here, Carl, here's one backwash. I feel like this needs a name change. Backwash. It doesn't sounds less like you are you know, you're sending a psychic like wave back at somebody than you're like spitting in their mouth or something, right? Like I don't know. Backlash. Maybe this is a typo. It could be a typo.
well, the backlash
Um,
is already a thing. So maybe that's
oh,
why
that's
they
true.
gotta come up with a different name or something. So
I don't know. Backlash with a capital B, or I mean, I guess they already. I don't know.
backsplash? How's
Psychic
that?
backwash.
I don't know. So,
Yeah, I mean rebounds. Maybe call it rebounds. I don't
okay.
know.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah. So there's some cool ones here. But again, would have loved to see some epic power mods. But you got some of your own stuff like they. So again, create item, Ghost in the Machine we've seen before, but some of the ones from the new, you know, from Deadlands to Savage Pathfinder to Fantasy, so stuff like lock, unlock, locate. But there's some really unique ones here like backwash, black hole,
Black hole.
um,
I went right by it.
gravitate. Yeah, look at black hole. Let's look at that. So for black hole, it's smarts ×2 range, which you probably want because backflow, Erica. Yes, backflow. That is much better than backwash. uh, but black hole, you definitely want the distance, you know, that you're creating a singularity. But yeah, you're creating a singularity. And then this is kind of like a more permanent havoc,
Yeah.
basically. That's in
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
blast template. So really cool. Um, yeah, you know, washing the back of your humanoid crewmates is a essential team building anime exercise for sure.
Uh,
You know, the one thing they're missing the hot springs mod
the
for
hot springs
starships.
mod. So okay.
I mean, there's a luxury mod. I guess you could say there was a hot springs mod on there, but That is something that I want on my starship. But yeah, anyways, there's gravitate. Lock unlock. Not really happy it's here. Not really sure why it's here. I mean, we don't like that because any power that just completely obliterates a type of play and character, right? But anyways,
And then we got locate.
um,
So
you got some of the upgrade ones. So they show like about the upgraded upgrading, shape change, upgraded summon ally. So yeah, a telekinetic squeeze,
squeeze,
which I think is a
squeeze.
hilarious name. This is for your Darth Vader squeezes, right? That's cool. So what does it do? Let's read this one too. Pull, twist, and tear at bones. Oh, that's a lot more.
Ouch.
That's a lot more edgy than I thought it was going to be as far as just choking somebody. I know we need a full. If there's an anime companion, Ramdam, he's asking for the beach episode companion. We need just a full anime companion. You have your hot springs, setting. You have your beach episode. You have your I don't know. You got to have your isekai, right?
I think this is a setting that's just a setting book just waiting to be written. I think it's time somebody to step up and write that setting book.
I mean, legitimately, there could be an anime companion book, or at very least, I've thought of writing an isekai. I don't know if there is one. Maybe there is, but a Suede isekai one. That would be. I thought of it. I might still do it.
I don't think I've seen that, but so okay.
There's ones for other games, but anyways. So yeah, that's the powers. So some really cool arcane backgrounds. I feel like they're almost there though. I feel like they could use some tweaking. And again, I would have liked to see superpower mods at the very least for the new powers. And then if you wanted to, you use the fantasy book, right? For the other ones.
Sure. Sure.
All right. Carl, you want to bring up did you look at artifacts at all?
Didn't get that far.
Okay. Well, here, check it out. I mean, you're the game master mostly. This is check out the prizes. This is like the magic item. This is the really powerful magic item
loot
section.
Salvage, treasure, king's ransom, relic. I'm not a fan of.
I actually like
random rolls. I'm not a fan of random rolls, but
I know you're not a fan of random rolls.
But we just did that in the campaign. I literally gave you guys loot boxes and said
you did give us loot boxes, which was fun. But I do like this table just meta as a overall. How much treasure did you get? This is kind of a cool. You draw a card, and that. But again, it's. I think to your point, like. This is almost too much, like 2 to 10. It's just like, normal loot. And then if you pull a Joker, you get a relic and 2 more draws, which would also could be relics. So a little too random, right? But I think overall is a meta.
I mean, you should be ready. You should be ready as a game master that if you're going to draw relics, that you now have something in your pocket because somebody's going to want those relics. So now you've taken your campaign in a certain direction. Just be ready. Just be ready. So
yeah. Tyler, I think I think you could do. I mean, obviously, One Punch Man. I think Chainsaw.
One Punch Man
for sure. I would love to play I think Chainsaw Man would be a really fun kind of little game to play in. It's like an over the top demon-y game, Carl. Anyways.
Okay.
Is there any Ron? Is there any underpowered blinking power novice wild? I'm trying to remember if they added that in for fantasy. I don't think so. I think what you would do is just, for me personally, Ramdan, because I think deflection up top, deflection's novice. I would just that would just be flavoring of deflection, right? Is that you're blinking in and out as far as novice goes. That's personally what I guess what I would do. I don't think teleport has that, especially not for novice, right? Oh, maybe he's referring to something else. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Check out check out more of the artifacts. I think relics. Pull one out that interests you. And
the Allbane. All Bane Shard, range 500, 1000, 2000, damage 5d12. Nice.
It's just a mega weapon.
Yep, looks like it. When they're assembled,
I like.
once those shards are assembled, okay, complex dramatic task. Okay, so what's it do? Oh, well, there you go. If within 2,000 light years, you pull the trigger, it's gone. Irrevocably destroyed.
What? Is it like it's a one-time use?
After attack, everyone loses 1 hour of memories as above, and the
Oh
shards are
my
scattered once
god!
again. So you can
Oh
only
my
get the
god, that is crazy.
you can only find the Dragon Balls once, and then you have to go find them again once you use it. So, like I said, this is where if you got this on a random roll, you have to know that this is the direction your campaign is taking now. This is what you've decided to do.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, one of the things you probably wouldn't randomly roll on, but I do like that it's like it's one-time use and you lose a bunch of memories. But that could be important, right?
Yeah.
So there's some. Here, I like this one called Construct Alpha, which is a indestructible minion from the collapse of a previous universe.
Nice, nice.
Sleeping through strange aeons until he wakes in ours. I mean, that's crazy. He's the same property as a labor bot. Okay, just but instead of a personal data device, he has a matter disintegrator.
He has invulnerability.
He's a labor bot, but instead of a PDA, he has a kill you weapon arm.
So you need an all bane to be able to hurt him. So
yeah.
Speaking of which, right? So
yeah, Sequoia's talking about I think you could always downgrade a power for sure.
Oh yeah.
I guess it depends on what you want to do with your blinking. If it's about like movement or if it's about being hard to hit. Yeah. Anyways,
cosmic beacon, diffusion sensor, exotic matter case.
So these are awesome. I like that they added an.
They're cool. They definitely could be part of a something that you're looking for in a campaign, or a big part of a campaign. That's cool.
Yeah. Protomass.
Make the Omega 13. We can make the Omega 13. Yep.
So some really cool stuff in here. Tetracube. Awesome. Transdimensional labyrinth. Oh wow. That's awesome.
And then mutagen Jadata. Yeah, there we go.
All right, I think final section. I think we definitely have to talk about the bestiary.
Sure.
Before kind of signing off.
I love creatures.
I think you looked at this. So yeah, what's your first impression of bestiary?
Well, I like lots. A lot of good flavor. But a lot of generic enough that you can use it for, like even the first one, like the acid pitcher is a carnivorous plant that spits acid at things. Very simple, basic, but very alien and different. It's a lot of good stuff in here. I'm not going to scroll too far because whenever I scroll, people see the creatures and then they go, "Can a game master use this creature?" So I'm not going to scroll too far through it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff. I mean, it's from the old book. It's like 3 or 4 times longer than the old book. Like they went crazy. I mean, what page does it start on? Go to page 235. I just want to call it the Mars attacks alien.
Oh, you got a picture? Okay.
Yeah.
Brainiac.
Showing the Mars attack alien.
The Brainiac. Yeah.
Yeah, the Brainiac. So 227. So bestiary starts 227, but doesn't really, creatures start on 220, and it goes all the way to 293. So there's a ton of stuff in here, and I really like what they did. They there's a lot more humanoid enemies and like groups of humanoid enemies. So there's even like if you want to go to, I mean, there's some really cool stuff. We got like the aliens in here. Page 258. You want to show the alien? Yes, assimilators, exactly.
Oh wow, this
I mean,
alien is pretty close.
straight Borg,
They're getting close to
straight Borg,
copyright
but
infringement here. This is pretty close. So
yeah, that's what I was talking about before. They are riding that line as far as copyright infringement, for sure. But they must, they must have vetted it, been like, this is good enough. Some real weird stuff, but yeah, they did have like Starship crew. So they have like a whole pirate crew, and they show like pirate crew member, the pirate officer, and pirate captain. I love when they do that kind of stuff. They did that. They started doing that more in the fantasy book. So really having like the multi stages of, here's not just like soldier, right? They give like multiple ones, different ones.
and I think
So
that's really important to a lot of the
yeah,
good settings coming out do that. They have people of the world, different kinds of people and classes of them, and because as a game
yeah,
master, you don't want to spend your time making up that kind of stuff. You want to just be able to pull it off the shelf and use it, especially in a science fiction
yeah,
game. So
exactly. Yeah. And then I also love that they have some like archetype things in here, like they have space cowboys and sentient vehicles. Uh, there's a space barnacle, so a lot of cool stuff and funny stuff in here. Um, I mean, look, 283. Look at this piece of art. I mean, this is just straight Predator. I don't even understand. Um,
oh wow, no doubt.
different enough, but
And
yeah,
it's called a
they really
stalker.
hit all the points.
Well, I guess he doesn't have a
And
computer
then
on his arm, so
finally,
it's fine, I guess.
yeah, there's no. It's a shoulder based computer. Um, excuse me. Go to the end of the bestiary.
Okay.
This I was totally not expecting, and I love that they added this in. So sorry, page 294.
Oh, okay. I went too far. Okay.
They added in a whole like kind of like a bestiary for empires, which really cool to like again as a game master to be like, you can change the name. Like here are the here is the flavor of, kind of proto, the empires that we're used to, like the big kind of factions that we kind of know, right? That are kind of maybe cliche or somewhat cliche, but that are kind of like the hallmarks of different sci-fi ones. So like we got the collective, which the assimilators. So here's the Borg or the Mass Effect. I can't remember what they're called, but the Mass Effect aliens are robots. Um, and they kind of give like if you want to check it out, like the collective, yeah, they kind of give like um here's the flavor, here's some kind of like specific, really powerful, like here's some more bestiary creatures, and here's some more like ships they might have, or like if you go down to the next page on the simulator, here's the fleet. What they might have in a fleet, and what the kind of flips the ships might have. Like they're undecorated and blocky. They're blocky, Carl. Almost cube shaped.
Almost
But they can take in additional wounds, and their handling is reduced by one. And then here's what they might have. Like here's the kind of the fleet. So really, I love that they added this in. This was a very like totally unexpected addition for me. Um, yeah, the collectors. It's the board.
yeah.
um, um, yeah, but then we got the Legion from different dimensions, and really cool. All this stuff. Paradimensional Empire, the Ravager Horde. So here's if you want to do Firefly, right? I think weren't those called the Ravagers?
It started with an R, for sure. I can't trying to remember, but
Maybe the
that's
Reavers? Maybe it was the
Reavers.
Reavers.
Reavers. Yeah, I think it was.
Was
the
it the
Reavers.
Reavers? Okay. But again, I mean, here we go, right? They got the like little kind of flavor section, but then they got like the fleet and what the ships, like what the kind of qualities of the ships would have. So this is really cool, right? I
This
would
is
have liked to
really
see this in the
nice.
fantasy book, I think. I don't know
Oh
about you,
yeah.
this would have been cool in the fantasy book of having like, here's your classic like druidic empire, and here's um your classic religious and all that kind of stuff. So
Very cool. Yeah, that's very cool. I didn't even see this section when I was paging through.
yeah.
Nice. All
All
right.
right.
Well, that's a lot. So that's a lot.
I mean, again, we didn't get into specifics, but there was a lot of good chat. If anybody has any, I guess right now, before we end, if anybody has some really specific questions that we can look up, if somebody doesn't have it and they want to know anything.
Yeah, so
We'll
please
wait for
ask those
chat.
questions. So while you're doing that, I'm going to do the obligatory peg
Okay.
thing. So you guys. All right, we're back. The disclaimer had to come up. So
yeah. Hellish Invaders. Yeah, that's a good point too. Hellish Invaders would have been. Yeah, you definitely want your Doom. I don't know if I saw anything in there. Let's see. And we got like paradimensional. We got the light. The Legion. I think the Legion. Here we go. Huge blood red dreadnoughts constructed from the carcasses of titanic alien. I don't remember if that was a Doom thing.
Well, Doomday came from through like a interdimensional door kind of thing.
Well, this too. These are from a different plane of existence, and they got powers. They got tentacles. Let's see. Maybe that's the closest one, but yeah. Yeah. So, Carl, overall thoughts? I mean, I think we've talked about enough, but anything else to add? Or
I didn't add a lot to this conversation because you had.
Sorry, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. It's because I skimmed it and I didn't pick up as much of the details you did. So I really appreciate that you were able to kind of bring a lot of that to the table. But just even through this process and through what I looked at, it's a really, there's a lot there. It's a great book. There's if I'm when I go to my next science fiction campaign, I'm going to use it. But there's a lot. You're going to have to be careful not to just overindulge with everything and then kind of get lost.
Yeah.
So got to be real careful on that.
Yeah, I completely agree, for sure. I think that's why it's helpful to. Here's what to use if this is the kind of game you're playing. Like maybe use settings and use these setting rules, and they break stuff up as like technology level and all that. So
right.
For sure. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Ramdam, I agree. It is a little risk, but I think you could definitely grok it, right? Cool. Yeah, thanks for everybody in the chat. That was awesome. Again, we'll do deep dives, and if again in the future, if anybody wants specific deep dives, we'll probably do stuff like the clash mechanic, right? Things like that.
Sure, we'll pick out some key things that are unique and interesting, and kind of dive into them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks everybody again. We don't do a lot of live streams. We have a celebratory live stream that I'm trying to put together for 2,500 subscribers, and almost got 200 numbered episodes. So we got 2 of them coming, and I'm trying to line up some special guests and then do another live stream to celebrate that. Do a little quizzing, do a little stuff like that, like we've done on the other ones.
Yeah.
So appreciate everybody tuning in. We don't do these a lot, but it felt just right for this kind of book and to kind of dig through it and learn. So, all right. So that's us for tonight, and we will catch everybody in the next video, next stream. Thanks again for coming.
All right. Happy gaming.